Great Tuesday. Welcome to the Becoming More Fully Human podcast. I'm your host, King. I'm joined by my co-host, Jess Esther, and our guest today is Glen. How you doing today, Glen?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
And Jess, how about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Well, as we like to begin our show with our check-in to kind of set the context of our frequency level and establish the state that we're in the moment. And the question that we use, or the question that we answer is, what is your spiritual energy number between 0 being life sucks to 10 being life is awesome in this moment right now? So Jess, let's start with you. What would you say your spiritual energy number is right now?
In this moment right now, my spiritual energy number is a 10. I am vibrating at love frequency.
Excellent. Excellent. And how about yourself, Glenn?
Yeah, I'm feeling about an 8. I'm feeling really high and ingrained and combined, unified today.
Mm.
Excellent. Excellent. And I'm a 10. And again, for our listening audience who may be new to that question, the reason that question is asked, I've worked a lot in different community organizations, and one organization in particular used to have that had a form of that as a check-in, where people will sit down before any meetings got started. They would ask folks, "What was your number?" And people will say number from 1 to 5. I kind of modified it my own self and added it to my meetings because I realized it was really a great way to learn where someone's state is right before the meeting starts.
Mm.
Because what I've learned is that a person can come into the meeting as a 4. That's because they could have got an argument with their spouse. They could have been arguing with their child, got cut off in traffic, or whatever it is right before the meeting started. And that's not their best selves. And they can say anything from 6 or below. It's time. What I've learned is better to reschedule that call, because a person who's going to come in at 6 is not, or below, is going to be kind of not present, maybe antagonistic, and just be confrontational. And that's because their shadow self is there, and they came right in the meeting with their energy. And there's nothing personal. It's not the best reflection of them. So that's really what the question comes down to, why the question is asked. And so now that everybody's an 8 or better, we can go ahead and get started. So with that being said, now one of the things that is important, I believe, in becoming more fully human, Jess, you said living at the state of love energy. And I think that's important to state that as well, because I let folks know through my Records to Wisdom story, and that's what we're going to talk about today, Jess's and then Glenn's. We're going to really unpack Glenn's the first time guest on our show. That Records to Wisdom is something that is scary to go through while you're going through it. It's full of uncertainty. It's painful, even physically, emotionally, financially. And what I've learned is that once you get through it, you begin to appreciate the small things that people call small things in life, which I call the big things now when you really understand it. My eyesight, my ability to hear, walk, talk, stand, breathe, and have a sound mind. And when I go through that list of gratitude, that's what puts me at a 10. And that keeps me at that state. So a lot of times, and it's like an armor for me. I have to put that on before I go out into the world, because the world is going to come at us no matter how we are. If you don't have your shield up, your armor up, you're able to get triggered, and then you feel that other people's energies coming into your life and lowering your state, and there's no value in that. So thank you for being love energy, Jess. And as we get started now, Glenn, welcome to Becoming More Fully Human. And we came up with the term becoming more fully human because we recognize it's a journey. Now, becoming fully human is a destination, but you never really quite arrive. You can't say, well, I'm fully human, I'm already here. You constantly becoming, because you're constantly learning about yourself and you're constantly growing, and that's what's important. Life is the journey. Now, with that being said, Glenn, I want to kind of set the context for you, because we've been on several different circles and discussions and meetings since I met you through Jess. I know you do a lot of great grief work. And I remember when you shared with us doing one of the Goddess Tears circles that we do, you said something that really just hit me. You shared about your being raised in a Mormon background, fundamentalist Mormon, and coming from a plural marriage and the family, and how many siblings you had. And I was aware of the trauma you had gone through with your wife passing and then you talk about Afghanistan. You kind of shared all that right within the same conversation. I was like, wow, that's if one person I know had just one of those issues, that would be enough. But you were dealing with all three, yet still you still find ways to be grateful and still be a servant leader. And I was always, since you said that, interested in learning more about your journey and how you're able to even sustain that desire to want to help. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of sharing your journey of who you are, where you come from, and how we are the person I know who you are today.
Mm.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And um, I have an opportunity to look back at my, my time here. And, I just turned 50 this year and recognize there's a lot that I have come through and a lot I've put myself into in order to have to grow through, a lot I put others through. And so when I tell my story, I do it out of love and respect because, I grew up in a very cult-like environment. Although I love my parents and I didn't feel like they were massively oppressive. I think that the nature of the religion created this pressure, and trying to live within its boundaries and its expectations created that. So as a teenager, though, you probably wouldn't be able to tell that. You'd think that I fucking hate my parents. I was that asshole. I was that
Were,
guy.
were
And
you the black sheep?
growing in a lot of ways, I think there's a lot of us that all felt like we were the black sheep.
Mm.
I think that I was probably the most obviously neurodivergent of the group of the kids. There were so many kids. There were 18 of us children with two moms that there's a multiple generations in that span of having kids. Like my oldest brother was born in the 1940s. My youngest sister was born in the 1980s. So there's 5 decades, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s of making and having children, where my youngest sister in 81 would be able to look at my oldest brother as a father figure. There's that much
Mhm.
age difference. So growing up in the 50s for my brother was very different than growing up in the 80s for me.
Yeah.
There's so much has come and gone. Like the Elvis era, the 60s, the free love of the 70s, and the hippie and Korea and Vietnam. And here I am as this kid looking at life with, don't tell me what to do kind of thing.
Mm.
We're getting empowered in the 80s and we're getting punky. And my brother's looking at me like, dad was in the army for World War II, and you don't get to talk to me with this kind of disrespect. There's so many different perspectives happening in that span of children's life. So I grew up with the automatic default of revering parents, your elders, um, experience come before you, plus all the nuances of the religion. The religion was very exclusive.
Mm.
We had this term calling ourselves a peculiar people,
Ooh.
and we kind of very lived forward into that, leaned into it. um, it was illegal to live polygamy. Both my fathers-in-law were in prison for it
Mm.
in the
I'm just
1940s.
curious, like, how did they justify it? What was their narrative?
Well, it was very secretive. It's kind of like looking for terrorists among the regular people. There's a lot of regular life stuff, but you see these groups form and these weird things happen, and they lived a lot of very traditional biblical ways. So girls were getting married very young. My mom was a 15-year-old bride.
Ooh.
Wow.
She got married when she was 15, and my dad was 31. And my other mom was 30 or 29. This Back in the day, back in the biblical times, this was very common. In the the 20th century, this is kind of shady, weird, and so there was gaining a lot of attention for things like this. Like, are these people treating each other right? Are they treating humans right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was also some extremists in this kind of environment, these fundamentalist group environments, where people, like, I don't know if you've heard of the Laffertys, where they were they were doing actual criminal things, murdering people and things like that, because they were taking the Bible very literal.
Mm. They were
So all the people
sacrificing.
in polygamy got lumped into this oddity of, even though there were different groups, different families, different ways to live it, anybody who was polygamist kind of got that negative, that we all got painted with the same brush. And so there was no real way to defend yourself because it was illegal. So the charge for both my fathers-in-law was unlawful cohabitation, and it was kind of a made up thing. So a lot of this was before my time, and growing up in the 80s, I never
Mm.
knew why we had to be so on the lookout and
Mm.
in the backyard and not being visible. And why we have to be so protective? Why do we have to be so secretive? Well, all this hard life was lived before my time.
Mm.
And so by the time I came about, this is just the way we are. This is just how it is. Get in line, jump in, be part of the machine, grab your cog, and let's spin this wheel.
Mm.
And so there's a lot of just joining in without me fully knowing what I was doing or why I was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was naturally curious, and it's taken me a long time to finally fully step into the rebelliousness of it. But I had this inner rebellion happening where I was like, no, I don't want to just do. I know why. And being a bit neurodivergent, I've always been a person that learns experientially, and I need to know how to do something right by doing it wrong multiple times first.
Me too.
My learning method is the fuck around and find out way. And that's how
Yeah.
I've always been. And it really rubs a lot of people the wrong way because it's costly.
Yeah.
So that was a struggle in my marriage as well.
Yeah, me too.
So
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask. I'm curious to know, where would you say that for the first 25 years of your life, your primary identity was, that you looked at the world through? What lens?
That changed a lot in the first 25. I'll be honest. My initial lens was created by my family, my parents, and my siblings. And I looked at it through that. I remember being a teenager, 14, finally divulging to some of my friends at school, which I very rarely did because I was trying to not be conspicuous and keep the secret kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That I wanted to be living plural marriage. I wanted to have multiple wives. When I was 14 years old, I knew I wanted to be dad. The first thing I knew, I wanted to have kids.
Mm.
And then to have kids, you wanted a family. So I wanted to follow in my father's footsteps. When I was like 17, I started realizing, like, you can't just get to multiple without getting a starting point. You got to start with one. And growing up as backwards as we were, and as backwards as I was emotionally and mentally and socially, I didn't even know how to talk to girls. Talking to girls was going to create something in my body, and I was going to have to run hide before I embarrassed myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I couldn't even get to stage one, let alone get multiple wives. So it took me a while to realize we got some growing to go. And in that time between like 17 and 19, 20, there's a lot of becoming, like, you're physically a man, but there's a lot of becoming the man on the inside, a lot of experience by trial and error, a lot of being around your social group, your friends, your buddies, and that's what grows you in that period. And I opened up a lot in that time, traveled a little bit more, never left the country, but I started standing on my own 2 feet a bit. And I met my wife, who was Lutheran, and it opened my eyes and shocked my world in a beautiful way, because she was so good. She had such a good heart. She was beautiful because she saw the good in people. I mean, she was beautiful on the outside anyways. She saw the good in people, and it didn't matter their color, because the way we grew up was bigoted and racist and exclusive. very exclusive. We took the terms from the Bible and the Book of Mormon very literally, like white and delightsome was the way Joseph Smith saw the angels. And everybody took that white and delightsome extremely literal. In fact, like we could go down a rabbit hole very deep where there's an interpretation of that's rooted in old Mormonism that says Cain and Abel were the first children of man. Cain kills Abel out of jealousy or wanting to have more attention on himself. God puts a curse and a mark on Cain. A lot of this is interpreted in many ways, but there's a very deep old religion message in the Mormonism background that says he marked him as the first black man. And with that curse came that everybody from Abel's lineage will get the opportunity to exaltation before any of the lineage of Cain's. So that automatically put this rift of racism in there. It's very deeply written, and even if it's not public now, that is a sub mindset that people carry. Anyways, I had a lot of this, very much had a lot of this, and so my wife kept telling me how much she found black men attractive, and I was getting my mind blown. Like, this is the most wholesome and beautiful, whole giving heart I've ever met. And she's challenging all these things that I've had as a root to my training and my teaching and my upbringing. And it took a lot of changing my lens to see things from her perspective, because I wanted to combat these ideas, but she was coming at it from love and good, and you can't fight that. So she really was the first person to really help me peel open myself and see where my thoughts and my feelings are coming from, and see if they're right or wrong, or if they really feel good, if they fit me. So this is all at the age of 18, 19. I got married when I was 20. She was 19. And I remember coming when I was dating her, a lot of my siblings were dating people in the family groups, because there were a lot of different last names that we knew were of the same faith, and I wasn't dating any of them. And sometimes they were crossing the family barrier too close for my comfort. Cousins and things like that, getting families together, getting married. I remember bringing her home to my mom's house one day, and all my brothers were there, and my mom stopped her and pulled her aside and had a conversation about how she just didn't think that we had it to last. We didn't have the foundation. She didn't follow me as a leader.
Cool.
And I was to be her patriarchal leader and family leader and all this. And I didn't know this conversation was happening. She peeled her off to the side, and that really went hard against me. And I remember one of my brothers pulling me aside and saying, "I don't know what you guys are doing. You seem very close, but if you're having sex, then you need to go confess your sins to Dad and to God before you can get married." And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about. Like, Dad's not Jesus. I don't have to come clean to anybody." Like, he said he wouldn't come to my wedding if I didn't confess and do these things. And I said, "This is not your place and not anyone's. And if you're not going to come to the wedding, you're going to fuck up the family photos that I've planned for everybody." And so he didn't show up. I held to mine. So I ended up having this conversation with my dad about how I'm in a tough spot. I'm hearing pushback from several people, and they're important to me. He's my closest brother. And Mom, like, how do you get closer than Mom? And so my dad had these horrific ways about living life with racism, and the iron fisted ways sometimes of patriarchy, but he was also very, very good hearted, and he gave me some advice that I will always carry with me. He had a very strong goodness to him, and I revere and respect and love him still, always. He told me that if it's right in my heart to move forward and join with this girl and get married, then what does it matter what anyone else thinks? And I was like mind blown. I just had the keys to get me out of jail and I could walk out of the cell free. Dad gave it to me. He's given me several gems like that. And I lived forward with those words and with that, like I was granted freedom with that. And so I knew that life with Tiff was going to be hard. She challenged me, and I came from this patriarchal family. She came from a matriarchal family.
Mm.
Um, my dad was a very productive, like always work, work, work kind of guy. He's a Leo. His birthday's in August. She's a Leo. She was in August. She was like,
More Leos.
yeah.
King's
And
a Leo.
so I knew we would clash. I'm an Aquarius, and so I'm calm and chill, and almost like most Aquarius I've found are like the the hippies of the astrology and zodiac cycle. So most of us are pretty easy and chill, very visionary. But anyways, I knew that I was going to have my own challenges and growth just being paired up with her, but I needed to move away from the way I was raised, my dad's and my mom's home, make my own home with her, and we would figure out these things together. So up until we got married, I got married at 20, became a father at 22 or 23, bought my own home, and my wife was pregnant with my second kid by the time I turned 25. So I had a lot of change and evolution and growth between 17 and 25. But I still wouldn't say I'm where I am now. I've been opening, like this becoming more fully human approach. There's an innate knowledge that my heart and my soul has that every time I have a breakthrough, I will sit with that and it feels like a remembrance, like I'm brushing the dust off and I remember this. And so there's this deep deep rooted knowledge that I'm uncovering or recovering, and that's what's helping me become more fully human. And I as I move through life, uh this decision to be one and unified with Tiff was probably the greatest catalyst of opening that up and peeling that. And because I got lost in trying to be a good father, trying to pattern myself off to my dad, and brought in a lot of patriarchal mindset back in, and really struggled and messed up my marriage, distanced myself from my kids because of that. Learned in a lot of trial and error, hard ways to do the dance and the balance with the masculine, feminine, and let her lead, and I will follow her lead. It took me a long time to learn that. She had a good heart, and there's every good reason to let her lead. And she needed to learn to follow my lead at times too. She was very alpha mentality and type A personality. So she had a hard time following my lead. But she really desired me to fully step into that and live from the heart. And so that honestly, at the age of 25, I had a good job, I had two kids, had a home, kind of on my path. I was dedicated into a career of IT. That was began my IT career when I was 23. So I was in that for about 25 years before I eventually pulled out and got into something new. But that kind of made me feel like I was a man in the world. And I think I don't know if you've had this type of experience, King, but I think before we open spiritually, there's a little bit of needing to be like that in order to get your feet on the ground and feel some stability before you can open up that next level again. And that's usually at the spiritual or heart level. You have to have some semblance of looking in the mirror and seeing a version of a man staring back.
Absolutely.
And so I did that for a long time and struggled financially, having a bunch of kids, but still trying to follow my heart, still learning to do the dance with masculine and feminine, leading and following, and end up really butting heads with my wife for a good portion of time. And I broke my vows and I messed up my marriage. And I couldn't keep up with the cost of life and living and 4 kids and a home, and um, ended up following my brother to the the war zone, as he was a civilian contractor working for the government and the military doing work in Afghanistan. And I picked up that work partly to A, go make the money I needed to as a father and provide, and B, to get myself out of the mess that I had
Mm-hmm.
made and all the distractions that were pulling me and my attention and my heart from the core of my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that was a really big struggle because Tiff kept telling me that's something for you. That's not for us. And I was like, bullshit, it's not for us. I don't know how we're paying the bills. We're getting
But you
deeper in
didn't
debt every
make that.
month.
She didn't
But
help make that decision.
she didn't help make the decision. But it took us a long time to realize we both were correct and we both needed to accept that each side.
Mm-hmm.
But Afghanistan. So as a parent, I was very fun. I had this childlike mentality. I could always see this sense of wonder. My kids would bring up, or there would be a crazy situation. A kid falls down the stairs, and I could see the curiosity that the kid that led the kid there. I was always had this positive and almost joyful and laughter like childlike approach to seeing it, and it worked really well because Tiff was so serious, and I was a fun parent because of that. And it was really difficult because going to Afghanistan and seeing the craziness there, and that country was full of things that brought innocence, like children and animals, but there was no innocence visible in any of it. It was beaten out of that land and those people by themselves and by the allies that were there to help. So I grew a lot. I i got hurt a lot in that too. I guess I don't know a better term right there. So I ended up with some form of PTSD. I lost this childlike wonder. So that's what I mean by hurt. I gained a lot and I lost a lot in all that. I grew the fuck up in a lot of ways. Came home ready to be a leader in my family and help run the house like Tiff had always asked me to, but she'd figured out how to do it without me while I was gone. So I came home and it was a very difficult reentry because they're like, who are you to tell us what to do? You don't even live here. You haven't lived here for a long time. I was being felt disrespected, but like, bitches, I paid for this whole thing. Don't tell me I can't do it. So it was a lot of clashing when coming back, and it grew me up. I saw a lot. I learned a lot. I really opened up spiritually because I was this blonde-haired, blue-eyed white man in a country full of brown people that believed in Islam, and so I really opened up, utilized that change of perspective for good. Put on the
Mm-hmm.
student's lens, and I got to feel differently and see differently, and dive into it too. Like I got a Quran. I started learning what the roots of Islam were like, and how closely the three big religions are, like
Mm-hmm.
Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are all three brothers. They're all rooted, and there's a lot of character crossing over. Like I saw this meme where it says um, Christ is in the Islam as much as he's in Christianity. He's like the Michael Jordan. He's like the star in them, but in Islam he plays baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just interesting. It opened me up. Opened me up. I got to really look at how there's more to life. Also, getting out of the state of Utah and even where I live here in Colorado, and branching out and seeing there's more to the world. There's more perspective. We, I think it's one of the hardest things about the cult-like way of these religions, like in Utah, is the Mormon pioneers left the rest of the world to settle and make their own place, and they have this unit, and they populate it, and so everything you'll ever need is right there. So it doesn't allow you to fully see a big picture when you think everything's in your backyard. You don't need to go far.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really opened me up to see that what's right is different for everyone. And this place of Utah has less than 1 million people, but the world is full of billions of people, and they can't all be right and everybody else be wrong.
Yeah.
So
You
it,
know,
it
you,
was difficult to talk about these kinds of things because the challenges of life, like I'd come home and Tiff would be like, okay, we got to run the house. The kids got to go to school. They got their sports. And I was like, yeah, but what about these greater questions? Like, what are we even doing? What's right? Like, we're joining a rat race where, I had all these big questions, and she was like, we don't have time for these conversations. The kids need to eat. They got to have their friends. And so it was a bit of a struggle. And I still have this I don't think I'll ever get away from it. I always ask these bigger, greater questions. Like, am I even pointed in the right direction? Am I really living with love? Do I accept myself and everyone? And like food, I'm not worried about food. If I miss a meal, I'll get the next one. And that's not the way she was. She's like, we gotta, in order to get them successful, we gotta handle all these things, and we're launching the next generation, which I love because I could get lost, my head's so lost in the clouds that I needed to be grounded by her. And then it came to like the kids fighting and squabbling, and I could get grounded and I could see the right and wrong in things, and
Mm.
allowing people to pop off and say some shit in order to let it let them get it all out so that we can get to the next level and start the healing. And so she needed my leadership there, and I needed her guidance to,
Mm.
on the daily of getting my head back on earth so that we could be parents. Anyways, the uh, the time away in Afghanistan brought me back a different person, and I struggled with purpose and depression ever since. And she lost her sister to a lot of her hard life choices shortly after I got home. She was young. She was only 36. She left her 12-year-old son when she passed away, and we had a very big parenting part of his life. Coming back home, I could see all the challenges that living here in the suburbs was for her and for the family. And I kept having these arguments like, these aren't problems, these are first world problems. Try living in a desert in a tent and have bombs shot at you and you can't really sleep fully. But I got a good understanding of how she carried us. She carried this family while I was gone.
Mm.
And she resented me for it, but I also knew that there was no way I could do that without someone so good that I could trust my children with.
Mm.
I knew that I could do this because I trusted her fully, trusted her with all of the decisions. And so coming back together was a really difficult unification. And I was really trying to grow, but I had a hard time having the conversations, getting to the deeper things, still trying to heal past a lot of difficult things from childhood. Um, and she was ready to move forward, look forward, like leave the past behind. And I couldn't get over some of the past, was stuck.
Mm.
And so we did this back and forth, and a lot of depression for me, even though we kept losing family members around this time. She lost her stepdad. I lost my brother, my oldest brother.
Mm.
I lost a really good friend from Afghanistan. Um, I started gaining a bunch of weight, started making more money and providing, but I was losing my light,
Mm.
the light from my heart and my life that should sustain me for providing for the family. I felt like I was caught in a rat race and I was being dimmed more every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so we struggled with becoming a team again. Even though we were doing a lot of good things, we were providing, kids were growing, we were taking trips. I'd put her through school. She was now working a career because she was a stay-at-home mom that ran an at-home daycare while I was doing when the kids were little and up until about midway through being in Afghanistan. So by the time I came home from Afghanistan, my oldest had graduated high school and my kids were starting to get older. My youngest son was 10 when I left. He was 3.5. And so they were more self-sufficient. She could work outside the home. She was into the career that she loved. And then one day she just had these health issues, and we were trying to do things together, and that you want to get to do when you're coming towards the fun years of marriage, when your kids are grown and you can travel. And so we were on a cruise when she discovered she had all these struggles with her health. And she was much healthier than I was at the time. I had probably an extra 50 pounds I was carrying. I had asthma all the time. I was struggling with my depression. I felt like I was always biting back these snapping remarks and words. And when we finally got the diagnosis, it was Halloween of 2022. And we locked eyes and we dropped all of the stupid little arguments, all the little differences, all of our bullshit. And we unified. We became a team.
Mm-hmm.
To back up a little bit before we go on with her story on getting diagnosed with leukemia, I had these men that I've followed for a while, grew up with similar backgrounds, polygamous roots, that had really gotten into this energetic and spiritual space that I really kind of longed for and I really wanted to do. And I could see them getting into the ancient ways and getting into plant medicines and psychedelics and mind expansion, heart opening stuff. And I was sitting almost kind of jealous off to the side, still having little conversations with them from time to time, and ultimately bought in and did it. This was before Tiff got sick, and I had an incredible psychedelic journey with psilocybin that opened me up, and I got this massive enlightenment that helped me understand all this slow unfolding to become fully human was to live from the heart. That's the ultimate message that I got, but it's a big story in and of itself. And as I don't know if anybody else has spent time with the enlightenment from medicine, but the message you receive, the enlightenment that you receive, really needs to be sat with and weighed into you and on you, and it's called integration. So I was doing integration from this for a good 2 years. It was such a massive enlightening message.
Yeah.
That when Tiff got sick and we dropped all of our bullshit, we locked in, I realized this is what that message means. Now it's time to live from the heart, be connected, be the parent from the heart, be the worker, like you have your career that's heart driven. And I had come back from Afghanistan with a top secret clearance and got a job into still doing IT work, but in aerospace, and it paid well. There's a lot so what I loved about being in Afghanistan is it was a counter IED UAV system. UAV is unmanned aerial vehicle, and it's what people consider a drone. We were flying a drone that was looking for IEDs so that they didn't have to be found the hard way. Stepping on them, driving over them, things like that. And it felt very important. I I never even owned a gun, but I wanted to feel a sense of duty and purpose and brotherhood, and doing this served that. It fulfilled that. And being a life-saving task force,
Mhm.
preventative measure task force, it felt in alignment. And every day you'd wake up and you'd get your idea of what the mission is, you'd get your briefings, but you were also a target, so you had to dodge rockets and things like that coming in. We were still the infidels and the bad guys. We were in their space. But for a war that someone else started, I felt good about taking the role that I was in of finding bombs before they're exploded underneath someone.
Mm.
When I got home and I get into these jobs that are in aerospace, there can be some very similar overall big mission messages that are in alignment, that are very similar. But I was the guy that was in the back keeping the lights blinky. I was a network guy, making sure their computers can talk so engineers can create the cool satellites that do amazing things.
Mhm.
I was too far removed from what was happening with the mission for me to really get into it. In Afghanistan, you can't avoid it. You wake up, you're in it. It comes to you. It's in your face. In a cubicle, in a top secret skiff, in a building that we have to turn the blinds down because we can't have people looking in. And it was just too far away from the end product for me to get into it. It was
Yeah.
just a job. It was just punching a clock. So I knew that it was hard to live from the heart in that, and doing that role in that job, doing that work. But when she got sick, I recognized I had let myself go physically. I had been suppressing my soul, my heart. It's time to get on it. And we worked together. I did everything I could to provide every bit of comfort that she needed. And that meant emotionally as well as physically, because there's a lot of not being able to eat that she had to work through. She went through several rounds of chemo. She had 2 stem cell transplants.
Yeah.
And I recognized that for me to be the best support for her, I needed to get my health in order. I needed to get my heart and soul leading instead of my mind.
Mm.
I recognized that I'm so much work, I need a team. So one of these gentlemen that I'd followed that I ended up doing medicine the first time with, he ran a men's group, and he was a very high dollar, big buy-in, life-changing group. And I just went,
Mhm.
I need it. I just jumped in, like, here's my credit card. I don't have the money. Here's the credit card. Let's get me moving. Let's get me
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah.
And it was one of the best moves I ever did. I'm with a phenomenal men's group called the Men of Sovereignty, that we focus on spiritual growth, financial health, physical health, community, uh, your weaknesses as well as your strengths. Like, you just get to be real,
Mm.
just be vulnerable, add value, show your soft side, be in this tribe.
Yeah.
And I recognized that I couldn't get myself in health and my finances managed by myself. I knew that I had my limitations. I had my question marks. I had my weak points. So that has been one of the biggest things for me. And Tiff asked me to make a promise to get myself healthy, because at the time she got sick, she was a pretty healthy person, and I was carrying the extra weight. And I was like, that's a no-brainer. Absolutely. I will make sure our kids have at least one healthy parent. And I still today feel like I haven't fulfilled that promise. It's still a work. And that's partly what drives me. It also what pains me too.
Yeah.
But that at that time I joined the Men of Sovereignty while she was sick, and they were there for me through all these things with her. And when she relapsed a year later in October of 23, it was deflating. It was so deflating for all of us. And they really were there to prop me up and hold me up and keep me open to the spiritual, to the heart, to all the things that I had been finally grown and open to and being led by. And I really needed that guidance from and that support from them.
Yeah.
But it really changed my perspective to find what's like, to prioritize what is the absolute most important thing. When she got sick, I've got massive shoulders. I'm a big guy. I can take hits. I'm strong. Like, I was so pissed off at God. Like, what the fuck are you picking on this woman for? She's beautiful. Like, come slug somebody who can take a hit. This is not fair. I was so angry with the fact that this happened to her. Like, what a sneaky move. What a bullshit, sneaky thing, God. And the only thing you can do is react. You got a new hand of cards dealt you. Play those cards.
Yeah.
So I started learning how to really follow Tiff's lead and open from, like, learn from her, learn from the heart. She's facing mortality every day, and her questions and her choices every day are so much different than mine. And I still have mine. I'm going to run the house. I'm taking care of the kids. I'm managing the finances now, where she was doing that. She was great at it, and I suck at it. I needed her to focus on her, and I needed to be doing mine. But she also needed me to lead too, because I was getting into meditation, and she was like, "How do you calm your mind? I'm just going everywhere in all the darkest places." So I remember trying to sit with her and do meditation, and I remember it was pretty comical. We sat back to back on this bench doing meditation, and she had about 5 breaths in, and she goes, "I'm so bored."
Yeah. Meditation is quite boring. That's the point, right?
It is, and it was helpful for me to see that she needed engagement in a way that could keep her positive, and meditation was too much quieting of the mind. She needed to be engaged. But growing up with the religion I did, there was one right way, and we all need to get in line. And I was finally opened up to there's a right way that comes from every single human being's heart.
Yeah.
And that's what's right.
Yeah.
And it may, like, even between Tiff and I, it might not be the same thing, but I want to support her in what's right from her heart.
Yeah.
What were you about to say?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, like, we have 8 billion humans with that same need, like, can you imagine a world where everyone had that sovereign access to their fully expressed heart, so that they could all follow their own lead rather than somebody else's?
Yeah.
Like, we really would be functioning like a wave in the ocean. Like,
I agree. And to see what we as humans have done to suppress that for other people.
Yeah.
Like, I love that I was surrounded by so many brothers in Afghanistan. By brothers, I mean gentlemen like yourself, King. Like, I was raised around this racist environment, and I got to get my eyes opened by these gentlemen that taught me true perseverance, true patriotism, coming from backgrounds that might have been rooted in slavery. And I loved it. I gobbled it up. I still reach out to them from time to time, and it's like, is my perspective here? I'd like to run a perspective past you, because I don't know how whitewashed I am. I don't know how much privilege clouds my vision. And I love that they have the patience to answer me and connect with someone who's actually curious. So I think some of the greatest growth I've had is removing that horrible shackled metal armor and vest of us and them. There's an us and there's a them, and it's not a we. all
Yeah.
human beings are made in God's image.
Yeah.
And
We started this podcast as no othering because it was
I
like,
like that. I like that.
like anytime you're creating like a division between me and you, then we get an us, them dynamic. Me,
Yeah,
them.
there are no others. I like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to take this opportunity to say, Glenn, you just shared
You're
a.
muted, King.
I'm sorry, am I muted?
No, you're not muted. I can hear you.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear him.
Can you hear me?
Mm-mm.
Wow, that's bad. Okay, let me continue. You can hear me
Yeah.
pretty well,
I'm
Jess.
not hearing
Yeah.
that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can hear King, but Glenn can't. So we're having an audio challenge.
Let's see if we can fix it. I think it's a great time to take our musical break right now.
All right, let's see if the music works, and we'll get back online.
Yeah.
Gratitude for feeling this. It means everything. This is not music. I wrote every word, then I gave those words to an AI music tool. I'm not the singer, I'm not the musician, I'm the architect of the frequency. The AI is the instrument. This is my frequency signal, Nen-G. Watch the levels, watch the meter, watch the way the power flows. Energy is everything, and everything is energy. Everybody knows. The construct is a leak, a drainage in the dark, but human emergence is the fire, the thunder, and the spark. We don't fight the ghost, we just change the dial, increasing the frequency mile after mile. Energy is everything, and everything is energy. And they cannot steal what they cannot see. Hear me now, this is a prophecy, not a protest. They didn't need a chain when a signal does it best. They cut the man from the woman at the root of the home, built a war in the bedroom so the children would roam. They drew a border between the straight and the gay, wrote it in scripture so the people would obey. Told the Jew and the Muslim they were born into a fight. Told the citizen the immigrant was coming for their rights. They put the black against the white in the theater of the mind. Planted a flag in your bloodline and called it your design. They handed you a label before you could think. 50% of your soul energy poured down the drain, down the sink. This is not politics, this is not pride. This is the oldest theft in the history of time. They didn't steal your gold, they stole your generated fire. They made your forced identity their most profitable wire. But I have seen the morning that is coming, I have seen the end of the veil. I have watched the paradigm dissolve like smoke when the frequency prevails. The moment you stop seeing through the construct's eyes, something ancient in your soul begins to rise. The black and the white, not enemies, but mirrors. The Jews and the Muslims both reaching for something clearer. The man and the woman, not a war, but an architecture. The citizen and immigrant, one people, one scripture. The straight and the gay, one frequency, one fire. Religion and spirituality reaching the same creator, higher. The leaks begin to seal, the signal starts to break. When the quantum human wakes up, the whole earth starts to shake. This is not hope, this is wisdom, alchemized from pain. This is a love energy tribe that refuses to remain drained. The paradigm is dissolving, can you feel it in the air? The forced tribe loses power, the sovereign is standing there. Is it drainage? Or is it increase? Is it the war? Or is it the peace? Is it the cage? Or is it the key? Is it what they told you? Or is it what you be? Switch the alignment, stop the decay. The scrambled signal is melting away. Energy is everything, everything is energy. The construct had your power, but it never had your freedom. frequency. Now hear the prophecy in full, let it land in every bone. The 8 energies are rising and they're rising in your home. Not black, not white, not the nation, not the name, not the gender, not the border, not the political game. They gave you a tribe you never chose, a tax you never owed, a 50% energy hemorrhage on every road you rode. But the soul was never theirs, the frequency was never sold. You were quantum human before they gave you a fold. We are not fixing the old, we are architecting the new, with a love energy signal burning, clean and burning through. From the divided and the drain, to the sovereign and the tall, from the streets to the mountains, the increase is leveling it all. The construct signal is broken, the frequency is free. Energy is everything, and everything is energy. The creative liberation is not coming, it is here. Fully human, fully sovereign, fully free, fully clear. Total alignment, total alignment, total alignment. No more leaks, no more labels, no more losses, no more losses. The human emergence has begun. Energy is everything, everything is energy. Energy is everything. Increase, increase, increase. I'm broadcasting my signal. Are you picking up?
And we're back from our musical break. I don't know. Can you hear me now, Glenn? I guess not. Still can't hear me.
Can't hear you. I can hear you, King. So it's a really weird phenomenon.
It is.
Yeah,
It
I
is.
can't hear you. I don't know what it is.
You want to hop out, King, and come back?
Well, I was going to say, Glenn, if you can hop out and try to come back and see that's.
See if that fixes it.
I can hear Glenn very well.
But
Ask
Glenn
Glenn,
can't.
ask Glenn to hop out for a second, Justin.
Yeah, Glenn, hop off for a second and then come on back and let's see if that
That's
fixes
true.
our audio.
I'm the odd one out here. Let me see if that works. All right, I'll jump right back.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, it's a great conversation. It's really great to hear so much about Glenn and how many times he went through an identity shift.
Yes.
You know, he started out as a fundamentalist Mormon. And then what I could hear was that he became a Lutheran, or at least like opened up to marrying someone who identified as Lutheran, then very quickly identified as father, and then IT specialist. And then quickly after that, now off in Afghanistan. I'm just recapping you, Glenn, like how many identity changes you went through in just 25 years. When King asked the question about identity, that's what opened you up to like this shift after shift after shift. I was just saying, like, you started out as a fundamentalist, then you shifted to, I'm guessing that you became Lutheran, or at least you opened up to that religion and married a Lutheran.
Yeah, I did go to church with him.
And then you identified as father, and then IT, I don't know, some sort of IT title that then took you off from all of that to then going and having this like experience in Afghanistan where you really, you said like removed the armor that you were created from. And then King brought this song in, which is really understanding, and what I was seeing like just in the background of this image, like coming from that construct of these are all the identities that were just placed on me as labels of who I was. And then you literally take that armor off. And now, like, if you look at the other side of the screen where everything's connected and you talk about like feeling whole and all of these parts coming into connection. This is like a really beautiful way of sharing like how I go from a limited identity to becoming an unlimited person with human potential. But
Yeah.
I'd love to just hear a little bit from King, especially looking at this from a fully human, becoming more fully human lens. And if we could delve into the last part that you were almost able to get into, I would love to hear a little bit more about that journey at the end that's taken you through the deepest identity change. Because I didn't ever meet you as an IT guy. I met you as a grief mentor. So, yeah, let's just give King a second to chat for a sec.
Can you hear me now, Glenn?
I can. That was the fix.
Okay, great. Yeah, you said quite a bit, and some things that obviously stood out to me that I had questions. I wanted to kind of reassess your shift that's just talked about identity, because you talked about, I know when I was coming up in religion, we were taught that similar Ham story, and we were taught that because Ham saw Noah to his nakedness, he turned his head. That we were told that because he turned his head, that his offspring would be turned black as a result of that. So I heard elements of that as well. And then the older I got, I heard the black indoctrination telling them that wasn't true, and what was true. So now we went from, we're held as gods, so the identity shifts there. You gods, kings and queens is what we were told we were in Africa, and that's what we wanted to focus on, is the kings and queens that come from Africa, and that's where our identity should be. Well, at that. So it was a constant struggle of figuring out where my identity was in relation to being enslaved, cursed, and now kings and queens. And that constant shift about finding your space and who you are within that. And now you talked about when you went to Afghanistan, you got a chance. And I know I've heard some other folks talk about from within the Mormon religion who were Mormons, and they talk about how the racism is still there. And so my question for you now is, how did you find the courage to be open enough to say, what I've been taught, I'm not going to accept anymore. I'm going to allow myself to be open to this new level of thinking and seeing people differently than I've been taught to believe?
That's a great question. As I progressed, I went beyond the age of 85 or 25. I went to Afghanistan when I was 35. But I moved out of Utah when I was 27. And that was when my oldest kid was becoming school age. And my wife had grown up in this very whitewashed, unified approach, Salt Lake Mormon area. As a Lutheran, even that created ostracism, and she was on the outside. So she didn't want our kids to have the same kind of experience in school and ostracism growing up that she had. Her mom and dad had both moved to Colorado, and so we moved when my oldest was 5. And I think being outside of that environment that I grew up in and having that space and distance and not being surrounded by my family allowed me to just start being that and not looking over my shoulder. In the past, I felt the pressure to conform. And it's very much more so when you're surrounded by everybody that are conforming.
Yeah.
And I also didn't know how to stand up for what these new openings, these new beliefs. I didn't know how to state them and be like, no, this is not right. This is how I'm going to be, and not cut myself off from the family. So I didn't know how to do it in a way that wasn't going to create some sort of combative environment. So I kind of took this pussy approach of just being quiet and do it my own way. But I kind of sometimes feel like I wish I'd just stood up and declared it. And otherwise, I'm kind of glad that I didn't, because I was still able to keep these connections. But where I am now in life is I'm not here to keep the peace by conforming. I'd rather be a troublemaker by being a truth teller, and that's how I am now. But that distance, by moving 500 miles away, helped me live in that without the pressures of conformity just from the environment, and also still allow for discovery and growth and opening up, trial and error. So I think that's probably the best way I can answer that, is as these things uh, come into a new way of being in my life, they need to be explored, need to be lived into.
Mm-hmm.
And the difficulty, I think, with that was in my marriage, because my wife was like, "You've changed." Like, yeah, I have, but I think we're supposed to. It's called growth. You've changed too.
Mm-hmm.
And, we used to get in these arguments where, when you're first married and you have no kids, you're always on each other and with each other, and it's great. You love that honeymoon period. And, we had a kid 2 years into marriage, and I'm splitting my time with my wife. And I don't want to sound like a jackass by saying that, but, emotionally you feel abandoned at times. And so now you're splitting yourself off, and you're splitting what you can receive from what they can't give anymore, and you're also splitting how much you can give, because you're now a parent yourself too. So I was declaring these, like, you used to be able to be very affectionate, and now you're not, rarely affectionate. And I've grown and I've changed, and you're feeling the pain of that too. So
Yeah.
what really was rough for her was, this was a change that was kind of unknown, because I went through this period of time where I really wanted to be a good father, and I looked towards my father for that, and I started implementing his patriarchal methods, and it just didn't work. But I seemed very determined to do it. And I was just beating this anvil with a hammer over and over, and I just was not getting it. And I was making things so much harder.
Mm-hmm.
It's another reason I felt angry with God. Like, she's the saint that stuck with me through all this bullshit. And I think with me growing and changing, that just created more unknown, which meant more that she didn't know how to feel secure in. She couldn't feel secure in those unknown spaces. So it was definitely good for me to grow, but I felt very alone in it. But there was no way to stay put, and there's definitely not. I didn't want to keep going backwards. There's a very big common trap that people grow up, or people have been in a cult-like environment, to fall back into it once you leave, because there's the safety of what is known,
Mm-hmm.
even though you hate it there.
Yeah.
And so I will still say, to this day, I feel that pull. That is always there. It has never gone away, and I don't expect it to go away.
Yeah.
There's that string just constantly tugging at your back, like you could be with family again, and you're just it takes constant perseverance and constant leaning forward into your own way
Mm-hmm.
to not fall back into that.
Yeah.
Because it looks and feels like there's love there, like there's acceptance there, like there's community there, there's all these things that can provide warmth.
It's just
So
slightly misaligned.
it's very misaligned. It's
I
very
mean, to go
common.
back into that love, you have to go back into that identity.
You do. Yeah.
And
And you
that would
think you
be a
can go
real.
back and be in that identity, but also be who you now are too. And you're going to go, I've seen it before. You go back into those environments. I've even stepped back in there a time or two where you're like, hey, I'm here. And everyone's like, yeah, you're different though.
But you're not.
You're not here. Like, the old you was who we wanted.
Yep. They do want the old you.
I think that's a key distinction, because I remember if you look at your friends and family members who you have conversations with, and they're saying that you changed, and to your point, what they're really saying is they miss the old you.
Yeah.
They want you to come back. And I liken that to going back to your childhood home and walking into your bedroom you grew up in.
Yeah.
You sit in that room, but it doesn't feel like home anymore. It's a familiarity
Right.
there, absolutely, but it doesn't feel like this is home anymore.
Yeah.
And that's when you get the freedom to say, I can leave here now and no longer yearn for the days of yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I'm back in Utah right now, and so I'm having this experience live. I
You feeling
actually
that pull?
Yeah, it's like there's a couple pulls from different identities. One was from when I had the identity of being Mormon. And it's like, I'm not hanging out with any of those Mormon friends or families right now. Because, like, it's the same thing, like, it wouldn't fit even if I said I'd like to put that back on. Because now, like, the last 12 years, I took on the identity of being gay. So, like, even going back into that familiar community that is very live and active here in Salt Lake City doesn't feel like, so it's interesting, like how you can take on an identity and it creates a whole culture, community, and narrative. And now I've got two of those that I don't belong in here because that's how often I'm shifting identity. But you're right. Like when I step into the most recent one, they just want the old version of me back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the reason I do so much grief work. Because I'm telling you, I've let that version go.
Yeah.
She's not here anymore.
I liken that. If you look at things on a quantum physics level and the spiritual dimensions, there's teachings that there's over 100,000 versions of us in this quantum universe. And this is just one experience we're having in this one dimension. And my personal belief is that every time you change, you allow the other you to come into this universe. So when you make that identity shift and you grow, that's new you coming into this 3D version. And that's my own personal beliefs.
Yeah.
That paints an interesting picture. And I see it very similarly. It's almost like the multiverse, from Doctor Strange and Marvel, where there's all these different versions. But really, the way I see it anyways, is they're all combined parts of one version.
Yes. And that's where you come back to wholeness.
That's where I come back to wholeness. And that's why when I discovered IFS, it was like, this is my thing. This makes so much sense.
Yeah. I was just listening before we got on. Before I got on, I was listening to an IFS parts work conversation, and someone was talking about how she had this conversation with her inner child. And the question was like, where is that voice coming from? Like, what dimension am I hearing my inner child? And the conversation was about like that part is always a part of you. You can't like refuse any part of your consciousness. And those are the parts that kind of like linger from the past of like, you haven't looked at me yet. You didn't address my issue. I'm not whole yet, which is why we're all like working on these inner parts that are like children. But the same aspect is true. What King is saying is like when that part that had an identity is seen and heard and actualized, it kind of like closes that realm. It like resolves it or integrates, as you say.
Yeah.
And then there's like an expansion or an opening to the opposite side of that.
Yes.
And now the opportunity, I just cut out for a second. Now the opportunity is with that new version of self to rewrite the past from the new perspective.
Or yes, integrate it from both perspectives, but now you have both perspectives. They have the perspective from that childhood part as well as from the self side. So.
I actually believe that your children are your chance to do it over again with wisdom. because your children are coming into the world and they pretty much have your DNA, they have your mannerisms, but what they don't have is the wisdom that you've gained. So it's your opportunity to kind of do things over again. Now, again, the only challenge is they have their own sovereignty. So they can choose to accept it or not. And that's the battle that you have with that. And you got to do that dance to figure it out.
It's an interesting approach.
Because the young you wouldn't listen to it either. You know
right.
what I mean?
Right. But I'm going to have to sit with that for a bit, because from my perspective, what I see is, yes, I get to give that. I get to give my wisdom for them to be able to carry their lives forward with, and hopefully they don't make as big a mess and have as hard a time becoming whole or becoming more fully human as I have. But I don't live as a youth in this day and age like they are. I don't have their challenges. I don't have their body where they're living with both my generational bullshit that I brought and their moms. And so I see it as like I get to continuously live. My soul gets to live, but through them. They are the gift. They are the gift that the future gets.
Yeah.
So it's on me to do my best to equip them, unravel them, warm them, and get that strong sense of heart and inspiration and spirit and soul for them to walk on their own 2 feet moving forward. But wisdom is a massive part of that, because my wisdom doesn't come from books. I have a shit ton of books. I read a lot. I listen to a lot, but my wisdom comes from experience. And I'm all about fucking around and finding out. So I think a lot of what I'm giving them is just the opportunity to watch somebody fuck around and find out. And they're like, Dad, why did you do that?
Yep. I feel like I'm giving my children the same wisdom. It's like, you know what? If you're scared to do that, don't. Just watch me do it.
So maybe you're actually right, King. I think I've kind of come full circle here. Like, I am giving that wisdom.
Yeah, you are.
It's the example.
Yeah.
And they can take what they want, and they can do it that way. They can learn from it. They can be like, oh my God, I'm never going to be around that guy again. He just keeps falling on his face.
Yeah.
Children are your best. Children are your best example of, like, we judge ourselves by our intent. Others judge us by our behaviors. Children are your best examples of judging you by your behaviors, doing what you do, what I say, not do what I do, not what I say, right?
Right.
I do what I say, not what I do.
Yeah.
Children are going to hold that mirror up to you and say, well, you said we personally always brush our teeth before we go to bed, and you didn't brush your teeth today.
Yeah.
Or you didn't finish your vegetables. You didn't clean your plate. You didn't put the dishes up.
Yeah.
Anytime you're being that hypocritical, your child is going to point that out to you to say,
oh, yeah,
I thought this was the rule. I guess it's not the rule all the time.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to have them be your mirror. Like, I use Tiff as my mirror. And honestly, I took that mirror for granted for so much. I clashed. I butt heads with it. But now that she's gone, I can see all the reflections she was giving me that I just misunderstood, didn't take advantage of. And I have this clarity now. And that's one of the difficult parts of grieving her is coulda, woulda, shoulda. Like, if I would have just understood what you meant, we would have been so much tighter together, this better team. And it's hard not to get lost in that rabbit hole of what might have been. But with my kids, like, that mirror is so different, but so much more powerful too. Where in partnership, your mirror reflects back to you exactly as you are, and my children, I'm reflecting back what I'm giving forward. Like, is this the way you want to be remembered? Is this message you're trying to send to the next generation? Like, oh, it's a very different mirror, but it's still very good and clear. Stand by 1 second. I need to quiet my dog.
Well, we got to get ready to wrap the show up today.
Yeah.
And so as we get ready to wrap things up, what I want to give each of us the opportunity to do as we do this in closing is we always talk about becoming more fully human. And I want to kind of put you on the spot and give yourselves the opportunity, each of us, to identify one person that we see or we believe, either from the past or the present, as being fully human, as our example of someone who we feel is living up to what we define as fully human or oneness, as you say. So Jess, you being a female woman, we go with the female energy first. And I put you on the spot first. Who would you say as a person comes to mind that exemplifies being fully human to you or has?
Yeah. You know, right now, I just have a call to Michelle Obama. She has really grabbed my heart. And, you know, she wrote this story of becoming. And I feel like it is a sign of what's possible, of like not having an end destination of like we became, but like being raw and vulnerable about what it takes to live in this America that's very divided, and even a world that is very divided, but to take these little incremental steps of being more human, and even to be able to normalize it and say that we're becoming more fully human as we have these conversations and just, you know, open it up. So I feel like she's really stood as a mentor to me of standing on the path and having these conversations.
Can't argue that choice. How about yourself, Glen?
Very interesting you said that, because I was sitting here in my mind going, who would it be, alive or dead? And is it male or female? Because there's so much working with men that I do, that I also see the weaknesses of, and it's like I can't fully get 100% bought in behind this person. So I'd say if it was a person from the past, I would say Rumi. I've been a big student of Rumi right now.
Mm.
And if it was a person alive, I was going to choose Michelle Obama. That's exactly the word, the name and face that came into vision when I closed my eyes with that question. Because I agree with all the aspects you spoke of too. And she speaks it, she embodies it, she lives it, she gives it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Rumi too.
So do I. I love both of the choices. I'll say mine would be Nelson Mandela. And I mention him primarily because I can't fathom what it would be like to be imprisoned by someone who looks at themselves as your enemy. And for 27 years, robs you of your family, your ability to be with your woman, and all the things. And then you get out of prison and forgive them and build a government with them. That to me is the ultimate example of forgiveness. Mark Twain says the true definition of forgiveness is the fragrance of violence sheds on a hill that crushed it. Right? And when you can forgive someone at that level, regardless of the magnitude of trauma or energy, hate, violence, whatever it is that's been perpetrated on you, if you can forgive them, then you can also forgive yourself, which I believe we all, most of the times, our harshest critics.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I just want to get ready to wrap up today's show. This has been an excellent conversation. Glen, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
Being as vulnerable, sharing all the details you shared, and coming here fully present, fully engaged, and continue to build with us. Same thing with Jess, being here, being present, being vulnerable as usual, and being your full love, energy self. And to our listening audience who's listening to us today, whether it's live or you listen to the recording, let's all look for ways that we can all become more fully human. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.